The galaxy was old, very, very old. 4,000 species had learned to travel between stars. They had built great cities on 1,000,000 worlds. They had solved problems that would take humans thousands of years to even understand. And for millions of years, these elder species had lived in peace under one simple rule. Violence was the mark of children, and wisdom was the mark of the mature. They called themselves the Galactic Conquered. They watched younger species grow. They waited for them to become wise, and when a species was ready, they invited them to join the great family of the stars. For 50 years, they had watched a small blue planet called Earth. Ambassador was one of the watchers. She was a being made of living crystal that sang when light passed through her body. Her species had not known war in 200,000 years. They had forgotten what it felt like to hate. They had forgotten what it felt like to fear. She sat in her ship above Earth and studied the humans below. She listened to their radio signals. She watched their television broadcasts. She read their books and studied their art. They are ready, she told the Conquered. They ask the deep questions. They wonder about the meaning of life. They create beautiful things. Yes, they have wars, but they also have poetry. They have violence, but they also have love. They are ready to grow beyond their childhood. The Conquered agreed. Humanity would receive the sacred invitation. They would be asked to join the Council of Elders, a rare honor given to only 12 species in the last 1,000,000 years. The humans would bring their philosophy, their art, their deep thinking to the great debates of existence. Was chosen to deliver the message. It was the proudest moment of her long life. Her ship descended through Earth's atmosphere on a spring morning. She landed in a green field surrounded by mountains. Human leaders from every nation had gathered to meet her. Thousands of cameras recorded the moment. Billions of people watched on their screens. Stepped out of her ship. The sunlight passed through her crystal body and created rainbows on the grass. The humans gasped at her beauty. She raised her arms in the universal gesture of peace. "People of Earth," she said, her voice like music, "the Galactic Conquered welcomes you. We have watched your growth with great interest. We have seen your struggles and your triumphs. We have heard your questions about the universe, and we believe you are ready to join the elder species of the galaxy." The humans were silent, continued. "We do not offer you technology. We do not offer you territory. We offer you something far greater, a seat at the table where the great questions are debated. What is the meaning of existence? What is the nature of consciousness? How should intelligent beings live? These are the questions we discuss, and we believe humanity has much to contribute." She waited for tears of joy. She waited for humble gratitude. She had seen this moment many times before with other species. They always reacted the same way, with wonder and happiness and the eager desire to learn. But the humans did not cry. They did not smile. They looked at each other with expressions did not understand. A woman stepped forward. She was older with gray hair and sharp eyes. Her name was Secretary General Wei, and she led the United Nations. "Ambassador," Wei said, "we are honored by your visit, truly. But I must ask a question before we can respond to your invitation." "Of course," said, "ask anything." "You say you have watched us for 50 years. You know about our wars. You know about our weapons. You know we have bombs that can destroy cities and missiles that can reach any point on our planet." Wei paused. "So my question is this: what happens if we say no?" "Did not understand. I am sorry, I do not follow your question." "It is a simple question," Wei said. "If we refuse your invitation, what will you do? Will you leave us alone? Will you try to force us to join? Will other species see us as a threat because we refused?" Her eyes were hard. "What are the consequences of saying no?" For the first time in thousands of years, felt something she had forgotten, a cold feeling in her chest. It took her a moment to recognize it. It was fear. She looked at the human leader and saw something she had not seen in her studies. Behind the poetry and the philosophy, behind the art and the music, there was something else, something old, something dangerous. "There are no consequences," said carefully. "You are free to refuse. We will simply wait until you are ready." Wei nodded slowly. "Good. Then we will need time to discuss your offer. Please be our guest while we decide." Over the next few weeks, learned things about humanity that her studies had not revealed. She learned that their most popular stories were about war. Their heroes were warriors. Their history books were filled with battles and conquests. They built statues of generals and named streets after soldiers. She visited their museums and saw weapons from every era, swords and spears and guns and bombs. The humans kept these things not with shame but with pride. They remembered every war. They honored every fallen soldier. She watched their entertainment and saw violence everywhere. Their movies were full of fighting. Their games were about killing. Even their sports were battles in disguise. And she learned about their children. Human parents would die to protect their children. They would kill without hesitation. They would burn down the world if it meant keeping their young ones safe. One night, stood on a balcony and looked up at the stars. A human general named Stone stood beside her. He was an old man with scars on his face and sadness in his eyes. "You are afraid of us," he said. It was not a question. "I do not understand you," admitted. "You create such beautiful things. Your music makes me weep. Your poetry speaks of peace and love, but you are also violent, in a way I have never seen before." General Stone was quiet for a long moment. Then he spoke. "Ambassador, let me tell you something about humans. We do want peace. We dream of a world without war. Every mother hopes her son will never have to fight. Every father prays his daughter will never know violence." He turned to look at her with his face. "But we are not naive. We know that peace must be protected. We know that evil exists. And when something threatens what we love, we do not write poems about it." He smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "We destroy it." Returned to her ship that night. She sent a message to the conquered, but she was not sure they would understand. "I have made a mistake," she wrote. "We all have. These humans are not what we thought. They are not philosophers waiting to bloom. They are something else entirely, something the galaxy has not seen before." She paused, searching for the right words. "They are warriors who dream of peace, and I do not know if that makes them better or worse than what we expected." The conquered received her message. They did not understand. They would learn soon enough. News traveled fast among the stars. Within days of his visit to Earth, every species in the galaxy knew about the small blue planet and its strange inhabitants. Most of them were curious. Some of them were amused, and one of them saw opportunity. The Dominion had existed for 30,000 years. They were not like the peaceful species of the conquered. They were predators, tall, dark creatures with too many teeth and eyes that saw only weakness in others. They had conquered 600 species. They had enslaved billions of beings, and they feared nothing in the galaxy. The conquered did not fight them. Fighting was for children, they said. Instead, they signed treaties and drew borders and hoped the Dominion would one day grow wise. It never did. When the Dominion learned about Earth, their leader, a creature called the made a simple calculation. Here was a young species with no allies, no fleet, and no way to travel between stars. They had resources. They had billions of workers, and the conquered's laws prevented any elder species from interfering in pre-ascension conflicts. It was perfect. The Dominion sent a message to Earth. It was not a greeting. It was not an invitation. It was an ultimatum. "People of Earth," the message said, "the Dominion claims your world. You will surrender 40% of your population for integration into our empire. You will give us control of your planet's resources. You will serve us, and in return, we will allow the rest of you to live. You have 60 days to comply. If you refuse, we will take everything by force, and there will be no survivors." The message played on every screen on Earth. Billions of people watched in horror. Parents held their children close. Leaders gathered in emergency meetings. The world had just learned it was not alone in the universe, and now it was being told to surrender or die. Was still on Earth when the message arrived. She watched the humans react, and what she saw surprised her. They did not panic, they did not despair, they got angry. Secretary General Wei called an emergency meeting of all world leaders. Within hours, something happened that had never happened before in human history. Every nation on Earth agreed to work together. Old enemies shook hands. Ancient conflicts were set aside. A new government was formed, the United Earth Council, and it had one purpose: survival. Wei contacted, "Ambassador, we need your help. Can the conquered protect us?" His crystal body dimmed with shame. "I am sorry. Our laws forbid interference in conflicts involving pre-ascension species. We cannot fight for you." "Then what can you do?" "We can offer asylum. We can take some of your people to safety, perhaps a few million. They would live on conquered worlds. They would be protected." Wei was silent for a long moment. "A few million out of 8 billion. It is what we can offer. I am truly sorry." "So the rest of us die." "The Dominion is powerful. They have conquered species far more advanced than yours. Perhaps if you surrender, fewer will suffer. They do not kill all their slaves. Many survive." Wei looked at with an expression the ambassador had never seen before. It was not anger. It was not sadness. It was something colder, something harder. "Ambassador, let me be very clear. We are not going to surrender a single human being to those creatures. Not one. We would rather die, all of us, every last person on this planet, than let our children be taken as slaves." "But you cannot win," said. "You do not even have ships that can leave your solar system. The Dominion has thousands of warships. This is not a battle you can fight." Wei smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "Ambassador, you have studied our history. Tell me, how many times have humans faced impossible odds? How many times have we been told we cannot win? And how many times have we won anyway?" She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sky was blue and peaceful, but it would not stay that way for long. "The Dominion thinks we are weak because we are young. They think we will break because we have never faced anything like them before." She turned back to, "They are wrong. They have no idea what they have awakened." 3 days later, the United Earth Council sent its response to the Dominion. It was broadcast on open channels, so every species in the galaxy could hear. Wei spoke the words herself. "To the Dominion, we have received your ultimatum. Our answer is no. We will not surrender our people. We will not give you our world. We will not serve you. You have 30 days to withdraw your forces from our solar system. If you remain after that time, we will consider your presence an act of war. And let me make one thing very clear. Humanity does not lose wars. We have been fighting since before we could walk upright. We have survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that should have destroyed us. We have killed millions of our own kind in conflicts you cannot imagine, and we are still here. You think you are predators, you think you are strong, but you have never faced anything like us. We are the species that invented total war. We are the species that split the atom and used it as a weapon. We are the species that will burn everything we have, including ourselves, before we let our children be taken. You want a war, you will get one, but do not expect it to be easy. Do not expect us to surrender, and do not expect to survive." The message ended. The galaxy went quiet. In the halls of the conquered, elder species looked at each other with shock. No pre-ascension species had ever spoken to the Dominion like that. It was madness. It was suicide. The Dominion received the message in their dark ships. They watched it 3 times. Then it laughed, a terrible sound like breaking bones. "Interesting," it said. "These creatures have spirit. They will make excellent slaves after we break them." It gave the order. 3,000 warships began moving toward Earth. On Earth, humanity prepared for war. Factories that had made cars now made weapons. Scientists who had studied medicine now studied destruction. Soldiers trained day and night. And in secret laboratories, the minds on the planet worked on something special, something built from the technology in shuttle. The humans had taken it apart piece by piece. They had studied every component. They had learned things that should have taken them centuries to discover. And they had ideas. Terrible, wonderful, impossible ideas. General Stone stood in one of those laboratories, watching engineers build something that had never existed before, a human warship capable of traveling between stars. "How long?" he asked. 6 months, the lead engineer said. "Maybe less if we cut some corners." "Cut them all, we have 30 days. The engineer looked at him like he was insane. Maybe he was, maybe they all were. But they were human, and humans did impossible things when their children were in danger. The clock was ticking. The Dominion fleet arrived at Earth on a Tuesday morning. 3,000 warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were massive things, black and angular, covered in weapons that could burn cities from orbit. Each ship carried thousands of soldiers eager to claim their new slaves. The sat in the command ship at the center of the fleet. It had conquered 600 worlds. It had broken species far more advanced than these primitive humans. This would be easy. This would be fun. "Scan for their defenses," they ordered. The scan came back. The officers looked confused. "There is nothing, no defense satellites, no weapons platforms, no fleet." They laughed. "They are hiding. They think if they stay quiet we will not find them. Begin the approach. We will be at Earth in 6 hours." The fleet moved forward deeper into the solar system. They passed the outer planets, frozen balls of ice and gas. They passed the asteroid belt. They approached Mars. And then the darkness exploded. The first wave hit them from the asteroids. Human ships, hundreds of them, burst out of hiding places among the rocks. They were ugly ships. They looked like they had been built in a hurry by people who did not care about beauty. They were covered in weapons that the scanners did not recognize. "Open fire," they screamed. The Dominion ships fired their weapons, beams of energy that had melted through every defense they had ever faced. They hit the human ships. The human ships kept coming. Their armor was strange. It was thick and layered, built from materials they had never seen. The energy beams burned through the outer layers but could not reach the core. And while the Dominion ships were firing, the human ships were getting closer. And closer. And closer. The first human ship rammed directly into a Dominion cruiser. They could not believe what they were seeing. No species did this. No species threw their own ships into the enemy like weapons. It was insane. It was wasteful. It was impossible to defend against. The human ship exploded on impact, and it was carrying nuclear weapons. The Dominion cruiser vanished in a ball of fire that destroyed 2 more ships nearby. And it was just the beginning. Human ships swarmed the Dominion fleet like angry insects. They did not fight like the other species they had conquered. Those species had been careful. They had tried to minimize losses. They had retreated when the odds were bad. The humans did not retreat. They did not care about losses. They cared only about killing as many as possible. Small ships loaded with explosives flew directly into Dominion engines. Human pilots ejected at the last second, sometimes. Missiles came from every direction, far more than the point defense systems could handle. And when a Dominion ship was damaged, human boarding craft attached to its hull like parasites. They watched in horror as the first boarding reports came in. "They are inside the ship. They are," the communication cut off in screams. Human soldiers in armored suits were fighting their way through Dominion corridors. They carried weapons that fired metal at incredible speeds. They carried blades for close combat. They carried explosives strapped to their bodies. And they were singing. They could hear them singing as they killed. It was a human war song, something ancient and terrible that their species had carried across thousands of years of violence. The sound of it made the soldiers freeze in fear. General Stone led one of the boarding teams. He was too old for this kind of fighting, but he had refused to stay behind. His soldiers followed him through the dark corridors of the enemy ship, stepping over bodies. "Keep moving," he ordered. "Find their command center. Kill everything that is not human." They found the command center. The officers inside tried to surrender. Stone did not accept surrenders. Not today. Not from creatures that had threatened to enslave human children. Back in space, the battle raged for hours. The Dominion fleet was larger. Their ships were more advanced. Their weapons were more powerful. But humans did not fight fair. They used the sun's gravity to slingshot missiles at impossible speeds. They hacked into Dominion communication systems and filled them with noise. They sent false signals that made Dominion ships fire on each other. They deployed clouds of tiny machines that ate through enemy hulls. And when a human ship was too damaged to fight, its crew did not abandon it. They aimed it at the nearest enemy and accelerated. Admiral commanded the human fleet from a ship called the Defiance. She was a small woman with calm eyes and a voice like ice. She had grown up in Lagos, Nigeria, where she had learned that survival sometimes meant being harder than the world around you. "Status report," she said. "We have lost 200 ships," her officer replied. "The Dominion has lost 800. "Not enough. Order all ships to close range. I want to see the fear in their eyes." The Dominion fleet tried to retreat. They had never faced anything like this. They had conquered species that fought with honor, with rules, with limits. Humans had no limits. Humans fought like they were already dead and wanted to take the universe with them. They watched its fleet die around it. For the first time in its long life, it felt something it had never felt before. Terror. "All ships retreat," it screamed. "Fall back, fall back." But there was nowhere to fall back to. Human ships had circled around behind them. Human missiles were destroying their engines. Human soldiers were on their ships, killing everyone they found. This command ship was the last to fall. Admiral's Defiance pulled alongside it, and human marines forced their way on board. They found in its throne room surrounded by its personal guards. The guards fought. They died. They was alone. Admiral walked into the throne room. She was covered in blood, some of it hers, most of it not. She looked at the creature that had threatened to enslave her people. "You made a mistake," she said quietly. They hissed. "You think you have won. You think this is over. The Dominion has 1,000 fleets. They will come for you, they will." "They will do nothing," said, "because you are going to send them a message. You are going to tell them what happened here, and you are going to tell them what we said." She leaned closer. "Tell your masters what you saw here. Tell them Earth remembers every species that ever threatened our children, and tell them we are coming." She pulled out her sidearm and shot in every limb, leaving it alive but crippled. Then she walked away. "Put it in an escape pod," she ordered. "Let it crawl back to its people. Let it tell them the story." The Battle of Saul was over. It had lasted 11 hours. The Dominion had arrived with 3,000 warships. None survived. When the news spread across the galaxy, every species fell silent. They watched the recordings. They saw the human ships ramming into the enemy. They saw the human soldiers boarding vessels with blades and guns. They heard the singing. And they understood something that changed everything. Humanity was not a young species waiting to be protected. Humanity was not a civilization of philosophers and poets. Humanity was something else entirely. They were the thing that monsters feared. The Galactic Concord called an emergency meeting, the first in 12,000 years. The question was simple: what do we do about the humans? But deep down, they all knew the truth. There was nothing they could do. The humans were coming, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Great Hall of the Conquered had stood for 3 million years. It was a place of peace, a place where elder species gathered to discuss philosophy and art and the deep questions of existence. Violence had never touched its walls. Angry words had rarely been spoken within its chambers. Today was different. 4,000 ambassadors had gathered, representatives of every species in the Conquered. They floated, crawled, walked, and slithered to their positions. They came in bodies of crystal, flesh, metal, and light. They were the beings in the galaxy. And they were terrified. Ambassador stood at the center of the hall. Her crystal body was dim, her light weak. She had not slept since the Battle of Saul. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw human ships ramming into the enemy. She heard the singing. "I have failed you," she said to the assembly. "I have failed us all. I studied humanity for 50 years. I thought I understood them. I was wrong." The hall was silent. Every eye and sensor was fixed on her. "I saw their art and thought they were poets. I heard their music and thought they were dreamers. I read their philosophy and thought they were seekers of wisdom." Her voice trembled. "I did not see what lay beneath. I did not understand the fire that burns in their souls." She paused, gathering herself. "The humans are not what we thought. They are not children waiting to grow wise. They are predators, the most dangerous predators the galaxy has ever seen, and we invited them to join us. We showed them that the stars were full of life. We showed them the way." An ambassador from the collective, a species of hive-minded insects, spoke up. "What do you recommend? Should we contain them, destroy them before they become a greater threat?" Shook her head. "Destroy them? With what? You saw the recordings. They defeated the Dominion, a fleet that could have conquered any of our worlds. And they did it with ships built in 6 months from technology they barely understood. What will they do in 10 years? In 100? "Then containment," another ambassador said. "We surround their system. We prevent them from expanding. We wait until they grow wise." "You would make enemies of them," said. "And these are not enemies you want. They do not forget. They do not forgive. If we try to contain them, they will remember it forever. And one day, when they are strong enough, they will come for us." The hall erupted in chaos. Ambassadors shouted over each other. Ancient alliances fractured as species argued about what to do. Some wanted war. Some wanted peace. Some wanted to pretend the humans did not exist. Then a single voice cut through the noise. "You are all fools." The hall fell silent. Every eye turned to the speaker. Ambassador of the L stood alone. His species was small. Only a few billion had survived the Dominion's conquest of their 3 centuries ago. They had lived as refugees ever since, scattered across conquered space, never able to return home. Was old. His scales were gray, his eyes cloudy, but his voice was strong. "For 300 years," he said, "I have listened to this Conquered debate what to do about the Dominion. For 300 years, I have heard speeches about peace and wisdom and patience. And for 300 years, my people have lived without a home because you were too afraid to fight." He walked to the center of the hall, his claws clicking on the ancient floor. "You call the humans dangerous, you call them violent, you look at them with fear and disgust." He laughed, a bitter, broken sound. "I look at them with hope." The hall stirred. Some ambassadors looked offended, others looked confused. "The Dominion has enslaved 600 species," continued. 600. Billions of beings living in chains, working until they die, watching their children taken away. And what has this Conquered done? Nothing. We signed treaties. We drew borders. We told ourselves that we were better than them because we did not fight. His voice rose. "But we were not better. We were cowards. We sacrificed the weak to protect ourselves. We let monsters roam the galaxy because stopping them would have required us to become something we did not want to be." He pointed toward the great windows, toward the stars beyond. "And now the humans have come. They are everything we fear. They are violent and fierce and utterly without mercy to those who threaten them. But they are also something else, something we have forgotten how to be. He turned to face the assembly. They are protectors. They do not fight for conquest. They do not fight for glory. They fight to protect what they love. And right now, at this very moment, while we debate philosophy in this ancient hall, human ships are flying toward Dominion space. Not to conquer, not to enslave. His voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire hall. To liberate. The recordings arrived 3 days later. Human fleets had reached the first Dominion slave world, a planet called Prime. 2 billion lived there, working in mines that stretched miles underground. They had been slaves for 3 centuries. They had forgotten what freedom felt like. The humans came with warships and soldiers and weapons that made the Dominion garrison flee in terror. But they did not burn the planet. They did not take the slaves for themselves. They set them free. Admiral landed on the planet's surface and spoke to the elders. "We are from Earth," she said. "We have come to take you home." The elders did not understand. Home was a word they had not used in generations. "The Dominion took your world," said. "We are going to take it back. Every slave world, every prison camp, every being in chains. We will not stop until the Dominion is broken and every species they conquered is free." One of the elders, an ancient female with scales so faded they were almost white, looked at the human admiral with wonder. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you do this for us? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you." Was quiet for a moment, then she spoke. "Because we know what it is like to be afraid. We know what it is like to watch our children suffer, and we know that no one should live in chains." She put her hand on the old L's shoulder. "You do not have to offer us anything. You only have to be free." The recording spread across the galaxy faster than light. Species that had hidden from the Dominion for watched humans fighting and dying to free people they had never met. They watched human soldiers carrying injured aliens to safety. They watched human ships burning Dominion bases to the ground. And they watched something else, something that changed everything. They watched other species joining the fight. First it was the survivors, taking up weapons alongside their liberators. Then it was the who had lost 3 colony worlds to the Dominion. Then it was dozens of other species, small, weak, forgotten species that the conquered had abandoned. They came to the humans with one question: "Will you help us?" And the humans answered with one word: "Yes." A new alliance was forming, not like the conquered, with its ancient rules and endless debates. This alliance was built on a simple promise, the same promise Admiral had made on Prime. "Stand with us, and no one will ever enslave you again." Ambassador left the conquered that week. He traveled to Earth, to the new capital of the growing alliance. He walked into the chamber where human leaders met with representatives of liberated species. Secretary General Wei welcomed him personally. "Ambassador," she said, "we are honored by your presence." Looked around the room. He saw humans and dozens of other species working together, planning together, hopping together. He saw something he had not seen in 300 years. He saw a future. "I am not here as an ambassador," he said. "I am here as a soldier. I am old, but I can still fight. I want to help liberate my." Wei smiled. It was a warm smile, the smile of a warrior who recognized another warrior. "Welcome to the Alliance," she said. "Let's go get your home back." 5 years had passed since the humans first met the galaxy. In that time, everything had changed. The Dominion was broken. There, a dark planet called was occupied by Alliance forces. Their fleets were destroyed. Their leaders were dead or imprisoned. 600 species that had lived in chains were free. The Galactic conquered still existed, but it was not the same. Many species had left to join the human alliance. Those who remained spoke quietly in their ancient halls, still debating philosophy while the galaxy remade itself around them. Admiral stood on the bridge of her new flagship, the Liberation. It was bigger than the Defiance, built with technology shared by grateful allies, but it still had the same ugly, functional look of the first human ships. Beauty was not the point. Victory was. She looked out at the stars and thought about how far they had come. 5 years ago, humanity had not even known the galaxy was full of life. Now they led an alliance of hundreds of species. They had ships that could cross the galaxy in days. They had weapons that could crack planets. And they had enemies who feared them. The conquered still watched. Other predator empires at the edges of known space had heard about the humans and were nervous. Some talked of alliances. Some talked of war. None of them had decided yet. But was not worried. Let them come. Humanity had faced worse odds and won. A message arrived from Earth. Ambassador had requested a meeting. She was coming to the Liberation. Had not seen the ambassador since the Battle of Saul. She had heard that had withdrawn from public life, that she spent her days alone, thinking about what she had witnessed. When arrived, was shocked by her appearance. The crystal ambassador had once glowed with inner light. Now she was dim, almost dark. She moved slowly, like someone carrying a heavy weight. Admiral said, "Thank you for seeing me." "Of course," replied, "please sit, can I offer you anything?" Settled into a chair designed for beings with her structure. "I did not come for comfort, I came for understanding." "Understanding of what?" "Of you, of your species, of everything I got wrong." The ambassador's voice was tired but determined. "I have spent 5 years trying to understand what happened. I have watched every recording of your battles. I have read every report. I have studied your history more deeply than ever before." She looked at with eyes that had seen too much. "I still do not understand." Was quiet for a moment. Then she stood and walked to the viewport. Stars stretched out before her, millions of lights, millions of worlds, millions of stories. "What exactly do you not understand?" she asked. "Everything. You are a contradiction that should not exist." Stood and joined her at the viewport. "We studied you for decades. We saw your art, your music, your philosophy. We saw a species asking the great questions, the nature of existence, the meaning of suffering, the possibility of peace. We thought you were ready to transcend violence. We were so certain." She turned to face. "But then you showed us what you really are. Warriors, killers, a species that will burn down the stars to protect your children. How can both things be true? How can you create such beautiful things and also be capable of such terrible destruction?" Was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was soft. "You are not wrong about us. We do ask those questions. We have asked them for 10,000 years, around campfires and in temples and in the silence after battles. We have written poems about peace and painted pictures of paradise and dreamed of a world without war." She turned to face. "But here is what you did not understand. We ask those questions because we know what we are. We know the darkness inside us. We have seen what we can do to each other, the cruelty, the hatred, the destruction. We have looked into the abyss and the abyss looked back." Her voice grew stronger. "That is why we value peace so much. Not because we are peaceful by nature, but because we know the alternative. We know how easy it is to kill. We know how terrible war truly is. And because we know these things, we cherish every moment of peace, every act of kindness, every beautiful thing we create." She smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "You expected sages in robes, whispering about enlightenment. Instead, you got warriors who read philosophy between battles. I am sorry if that disappointed you." She looked back out at the stars. "But I am not sorry for what we did. The Dominion would have enslaved us. They would have taken our children. They would have destroyed everything we love. And when someone threatens what we love, we do not write poems about it. We do not debate philosophy. We fight. We kill. We win." Was quiet. Her crystal body flickered with colors had never seen before, emotions the ambassador had not felt in thousands of years. "Your species frightens me," admitted, "but it also gives me something I had lost." "What is that?" "Hope." The ambassador's light grew slightly stronger. For 300 million years, the conquered has watched predator empires rise and fall. We have seen species enslaved and destroyed. We have told ourselves that violence is not the answer, that patience and wisdom will eventually triumph. But it never did. Evil grew stronger while we debated. She looked at with something like wonder. "And then you came, young and fierce and impossibly brave. You did in 5 years what we could not do in millions. You broke the chains. You freed the slaves. You made tyrants afraid." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Perhaps we were wrong. Perhaps violence is not always the mark of children. Perhaps sometimes it is the mark of protectors, of guardians, of those who love so fiercely that they will become monsters to defend what they cherish." Nodded slowly. "We are not proud of what we can do. No sane human enjoys killing, but we accept it. We carry the weight of it, because someone has to protect the innocent. Someone has to stand against the darkness." She put her hand on shoulder, a gesture of connection, of understanding. "You wanted us to be wise. We are. We are wise enough to know that sometimes wisdom means picking up a weapon. We are wise enough to know that peace must be protected by those willing to fight for it. We are wise enough to know that the universe is not always kind, and that kindness must sometimes wear armor." Light grew stronger still. For the first time in years, she looked like herself again. "I think I finally understand," she said. "You are not what we expected. You are something better, something the galaxy needed but did not know it needed." She bowed, a gesture of respect from one being to another. "I was wrong to fear you, Admiral. I should have thanked you. Your species has given the galaxy a gift it did not deserve, freedom, and you paid for it in blood." Bowed in return. "We paid a price, but so did your conquered once. You just paid it so long ago that you forgot." They stood together at the viewport, watching the stars. "What happens now?" asked. "Now we build something new," said. "An alliance of the willing, a coalition of those who believe that freedom is worth fighting for. The conquered can join us if it wishes, or it can continue debating in its ancient halls. Either way, we will keep moving forward. And if new threats emerge, if other empires decide to test you." Smiled. It was a warrior's smile, calm and confident and just a little dangerous. "Then they will learn what the Dominion learned. They will learn what happens when you threaten humanity. They will learn that we are not philosophers waiting to bloom." She looked out at the infinite darkness, at the stars that humanity was now free to explore. "We are exactly what we have always been, warriors who dream of peace, killers who create beautiful things, monsters who love their children more than anything in the universe." She turned to one final time. "They expected wisdom, not war. But they did not understand that for us, war is wisdom. The wisdom to know when words are not enough. The wisdom to protect what matters. The wisdom to carry the darkness so that others can live in light." She straightened her uniform and prepared to return to her duties. The galaxy went silent in shock. Let it stay silent. Let them wonder. Let them fear. Her eyes were hard as stars. "We have work to do." Outside the viewport, human ships patrolled the void, guardians of a new order, protectors of 100 species, warriors who read philosophy between battles. They had come to the stars not as students, not as children, not as supplicants. They had come as exactly what they had always been. And the galaxy would never forget it.